Well, actually, you believe atheism limits imagination and atheists put too much trust into science. I had the wrong guy. Tell us more about your belief that atheism limits imagination.
Okay, so as an agnostic, I believe that how humans perceive God is a very self-centered view, and that if there is a God, I don't think that he solely exists to serve us humans and grant us wishes, because
You're going to have to slow down a little bit, Joseph,
that,
because you're talking very fast and the signal isn't very
okay,
good. So you said, repeat everything you said, please.
okay, so let me just slow down, okay. So as an agnostic, I believe that how humans perceive God is a very self-centered view. If there is a God, I don't think that he solely exists to serve us humans and grant us wishes because we've just been good people. That being said, I think it's important for us as debaters to view God in a different light from major religions that place emphasis on the embodiment of God in human form. So to go on, if the universe has existed for, let's say, 365 days, us humans haven't existed for a tenth of a millisecond, you and many of the other atheists who are listening right now have a very strong conviction that there is not a God. I understand it. We're the only creatures on this strange world with these strange abilities. I believe it makes it that much more interesting that we are the only ones. With that being said, I believe that this tiny blue planet is the most interesting place in the entire universe, right? I believe atheists place too much trust in the science as a whole, and archaeologists' only job is to assume. I'm sure you're already aware of the missing links in the human evolutionary chain.
All right, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you right now. I'm muting you. You're reading something. I know you are, and that's fine. However, this is a show where we go back and forth, and you've said a lot of stuff that we haven't had a chance to address. And so you'll please forgive me for having sort of forget everything that you said, trying to keep up, because I'm thinking about it. And we're having a conversation. I'm thinking about it. And I want to give you the respect to address every point that you've made and my thoughts on it, and MD Aware's thoughts as well, and the audience. They got to give them a chance to think. So going back to the very start, and I know I'm going to miss a lot, but that's kind of your fault. You believe atheism limits imagination and we put too much trust in science. Okay. I'm not a scientist. MD Aware is a medical doctor. We have Forrest Valkai who does science. We have people with neurology and brain biology understandings and stuff like that. In my experience, even me as just a schmuck who yells at people for a living, I don't think that my imagination is limited at all, because every time I find out something new about the world, some new scientific discovery, something about human interactions, my mind goes wild thinking of the possibilities. And have you ever seen Forrest Valkai go off on one of his tirades about some allele things and nerves and joints? And MD Aware, my God, that guy knows quite a bit about the human body and how it functions and taking care of it. Have you ever talked to student Dr. Ben? Have you ever heard him talk about the various things about the human body? I think that science, a healthy understanding of science, sparks the imagination. Faith stops the investigation, in my experience. What are your thoughts on that, Joseph from Georgia?
Well, with what you just said, wouldn't you agree with the statement that for all of human history and whatnot, it was the Christians who invested into science. It was the Christians who invested into art and whatnot. I'm not saying that your imagination is no greater or less than my imagination. I'm just saying that with the Christians and the Christian artists that I've met, like my mother, she is a fantastic artist. She is a Seventh-day Adventist, and the conviction that she has with her paintbrush is I can feel it. But when I look at atheist artworks online, they promote this dark energy.
Absolutely nonsense. No, Joseph. Folks in the audience, I paint and I draw and I do sculpture. Okay? There, it's out. I'm a yuppie lawyer artist who fancies himself a creative individual. My artwork has nothing to do with the eternal void of the universe and the utter meaningless. No, forget that. It's about personal experience and expression and interrelations between individuals. Okay. I've done still lifes of people, friends, who I want to give them a gift that they appreciate. I've done like paintings of trees and landscapes because of the beauty of the world that I live in. And I want to somehow, in some crummy way, make part of me reflect that beauty out there. I live in the world, okay? And I know that eventually all of those paintings, all of those drawings, and my terrible, terrible pottery will eventually be destroyed, right? But it's a little bit of me within my time that I can put out there and maybe bring some joy, or at least sarcastic jokes about how terrible I am, or sincere ones. It's a form of human expression. And your mother's connection to her Seventh-day Adventist art, that's a personal human expression as well. Okay? So that little comment, you can go flush that right down the toilet. Give me another example.
Well, and if I may, I have the MD. I also have a PhD in biomedical engineering. I had to do 3 years of science. Science requires imagination. I think that there's a misconception because a lot of people learn science. They do like high school science classes or even undergrad science classes. And they think, oh, science is just studying stuff in books. And you have to memorize these facts, and these facts are immutable, and there's no room for imagination. Whatever you thought about that flower is now been explained away. All the beauty that you thought was underlying it, any magic you thought, it's all been explained away by science. I'm here to tell you, when you're on the forefront of science and you're making discoveries, imagination is key. Imagination is what makes you a good scientist, because you are trying to come up with an explanation for something that nobody knows, right? That's the whole point. You're looking at the world, you're doing little experiments, and you're trying to figure out why these are doing the things they're doing, what mechanisms might be at play. And that is a act of imagination. The production of hypotheses and the creation of experiments to test your hypotheses, that's not something that you learn necessarily in a textbook. You have to learn the textbook facts, learn the basics, and then use your imagination to extend it. And in that way, scientists probably require more imagination than most other professions, certainly more than being a doctor. So I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about science, but you really do need a strong imagination. And if you listen to any of the big scientists, the famous people who you see in the news, Neil deGrasse Tyson and Feynman was very big, and so was Sagan, both very big on the importance of having an active imagination, being a good scientist. Einstein would have said the same thing.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? And then I have another point I'd like to react to.
Hello, Mama?
Yeah,
okay.
You're there. Joseph, what do you think about that? We've given you something to chew on. What do you say to that?
Okay, so I'm sorry, what's the second guy's name? I'm sorry.
MD Aware.
You
need to be aware of that. Yes.
Just say that guy.
Yeah.
You, sir, I would just say that, I'm not discrediting you and your profession. I believe that scientists do have, an amazing imagination. like you said, to just visualize the components and how they work in our body is something a lot of people aren't even conscious, enough to do. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I would like to say that I still think it's amazing that, archaeologists, their only job is to assume what the past tells. I mean,
Are you saying the
I'm sure.
archaeologist's job is to assume? My understanding of archaeology was to piece together with evidence the structures and uh, processes by which human beings lived. Like they're reconstructing a society based upon the remains of that society. There's no
But
assumptions. I
there's
mean,
so
there's
many times that they're
assumptions.
wrong.
Oh,
Are
no.
they not?
Yeah.
There are times,
Shoot for the moon. If you miss, you'll land among the stars. I suppose if you don't ask the questions, if you don't try, you'll never get a right answer because you'll just always be wrong. Yes, they're wrong sometimes. And to quote
okay,
many hosts on this show and others, you know how they found out they were wrong? They did more archaeology and more science. That's what they did. It was never a genie and a magic lamp or some prayer crystals that proved them wrong. Science disproves itself, self-correcting. It's not perfect, but it's the best thing we've
right,
got, right?
right.
Yeah, what's your
So I agree
alternative? If you think
100,000%.
that atheists are putting too much trust in science, what do you suggest?
Yeah, good question. What should we do?
Well, I would just say that, you know, you guys are asking me some very good questions. But atheists,
Thank you.
I think you guys are on a very good path to finding truth and whatnot in your own way. But
Yeah.
the fact that there are just so many unknown mysteries within this world and things that science just can't explain, such as the missing links
Well,
in the
hasn't
human evolution.
yet
I mean,
explained, perhaps.
Yeah. Not yet.
okay,
Yeah.
you can go with that,
Yeah.
but I don't see scientists or anybody making a time machine. There's no way we can really know the universe is this many billion years old when in a million years they're this bad, and we'll never know. I mean, the fact that the pyramids, I'm sure you guys have probably heard this argument before, but the fact that they were built on all corners of the globe, and we have no way they could have logically made those pyramids, that has to be truth. That has to give evidence.
Hang on a
that
second. Are
We
you
know
saying?
quite
Yeah.
clearly how pyramids were built, and the fact
Yeah.
that they're everywhere suggests that pyramids are a very good structure to stand up over millennia of erosion,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And
Like
the
that's
people.
the only thing that the
Distance and
presence of
whatnot.
pyramids in lots
Even
of
in
places
China.
suggests. Yeah, I know. But that tells you that they last a long time. If you stack rocks in a pyramid shape, they're gonna last for longer in that shape than if you made, a house out of straw or something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's what that
Same
tells
thing
us.
as
I feel
how
like
they
you're getting
were
the
made,
wrong
is what I'm
messages.
saying.
You're
Yeah.
you're taking the wrong lessons perhaps
Yeah.
from these observations.
Joseph, a lot of people say that these ancient people in Mesoamerica and Southeast Asia and Africa and different parts of the world couldn't have made pyramids because they just weren't sophisticated enough. They weren't smart enough. They weren't human enough. The people who make those arguments,
Oh,
not you, are racists. And they don't understand that people in
yeah.
ancient Africa and Mesoamerica were just as smart as we are now. They just didn't have the discoveries that we're relying upon their discoveries. We're standing on their shoulders,
Right.
figuring these things out. I want to jump back.
Yeah.
So flush that one down the toilet too, Joseph. So you made another point about all these Christians doing all the discoveries and all these Christians doing the art, and I love this one because it's also a turd that needs to be flushed. Yeah, someone said algebra in the comments, and that's exactly where my brain went. Do you know where algebra comes from, friend?
I'm thinking the Greeks, maybe. I'm not 100% sure.
It's in the name.
Pythagoras.
It's in the name.
It's in the name.
Algebra.
Alcohol.
Algebra.
Al Jazeera. Yeah. It's it's an Arabic discovery. So we've got Muslim geometers and mathematicians, right? Looking at the beauty of the world and functioning in the world. These are smart cats, right? And they developed algebra, a mathematical discipline that gets us, I don't know, I have never used it apparently, but it's out there, right? The Greeks did their geometry and their various arithmetical proofs and all that stuff, right? So you don't need Christianity to get algebra. In fact, the Arabs didn't think so.
Oh yeah, I'm not arguing for Christians or any religious
You said Christian.
people. I'm just saying
You said
that.
Christian.
Yeah, you're right. I did say Christians, but that's just an example of religious people putting society on a pedestal in a way and progressing society. That's just what I'm saying. The atheists of 1,000 years ago are not the same atheists of today. Same goes for the Christians and whatnot.
The atheists of
tomorrow
1,000 years
not the
ago.
same people.
The atheist of 1,000 years ago would be burned at the stake. So there's something you're forgetting about. Anyone who dared speak up that sweet Genghis Kringus didn't exist, or Muhammad was a jerk, or Buddha is just a metaphor, or whatever. The Hindu gods are just aspects of the human psychology and not actually whatever. But let's focus on Western Europe. Anyone who was an out atheist 1,000 years ago, not only could they not get other atheists together to build hospitals or to commission great works of art or giant buildings dedicated to the void and the meaninglessness of life. I say it sarcastically. But they would be ostracized at best and at worst getting killed. Okay? So this wasn't an option for early atheists. If you wanted to commission something, you had to have the approval of the wealthy. And the wealthy got wealthy through their interconnections and through their approval of a dominating Catholic Church, right? They were the ones that dictated a lot of the terms. And so you'd better damn well believe that you had to be a Christian artist or a Christian scientist or a Christian engineer in some way. You are aware of history being that way, right, Joseph?
I was just angling at a different point of view, like
yeah, a different.
But
clearly, but
your
you
point
are aware of my point, though, right?
Just
You're
that
aware of my
Christians,
point.
they're not. Yes, I'm aware of the point. I'm just saying that Christians did not hold their people back, but that I'm sure that wasn't their intent to do. Their intent was to have good.
Should we examine a specific case, perhaps, Joseph?
Yes.
Because I put it to you that in fact Christianity, for example, limits imagination. Galileo proposed a heliocentric model of the universe. He was not the first one to do so, but he was the one who popularly did it, and he was excommunicated by the church because the church put a limitation that said that the earth had to be the center of the universe, right? They specifically limited what Galileo could say. They tried to stop him from proposing a heliocentric model of the universe. They failed to do so, but they tried their best. So in what way does this demonstrate that atheism limits the imagination? Galileo adopted what you might call, at that time, an atheistic worldview while he was interpreting his observations, and it led him to a discovery that was counter to the Christian narrative.
Well, to that I say that not every Christian speaks for every Christian. I believe in the Bible it says that we should debate with one another to reach a better endpoint, or I don't know if I say endpoint, but just to have a better society, we should debate with one another. And they didn't do their job. And to go to the horrible priests and all of these people, I believe that a lot of atheists, they're atheists because of something that they're in their church. Somebody did something to them, and now they are the way they are. But those
So hey,
creatures, those
I
power things,
Joseph,
they don't
I can agree with
the
you
Christians
that
I know,
some
the good people that I
atheists,
know.
Joseph, I can agree with you that some atheists perhaps do not have the best reasons for being atheists. In my view, what I think are good reasons. But that doesn't mean that, again, in the same way that you can't judge all Christians based on the actions of one Christian, you can't judge all atheists based on the actions of one atheist. So what's your argument to say that atheism as a movement, as a thought process, as an ideology, limits the imagination necessarily of all people who engage in that belief?
Well, I'm not an absolutist. I believe that as society as a whole grows and expands, there will be instances where atheism does do good things, and it will do bad things. And I just think that there's a reason why the CCP only allows atheists to join the military. It's easier to tell an atheist to kill a man than it is a Buddhist. I'm just saying that I don't think atheists are bad people at all. I think what you guys are doing is
Wait, what? What?
Yeah,
Only expand, enhance. Only atheists are allowed to be in the military in what country?
in the Chinese Communist Party. They only allow atheists to be.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look it up.
Hey,
Right?
you know what, Joseph? I think you jumped the shark. I'm going to go ahead and mute you. I'm going to go ahead and drop you. And I don't know where you're getting your information from, but Joseph, if you're still listening, if you're still tuning in to see how this call ended, I've had quite enough. I suggest that you go get some citations to your quotes. I suggest that you, I don't know, read some books about history and about science written by maybe popularization of science. MD aware, you're aware, I'm sure, of some very interesting books on like by Carl Sagan or others who expound upon the beauty and the creative opportunities in science. Do you have any that come to mind as I ask you right now? If not,
well, let's see. Sagan wrote one that was called Candle in the Dark, I think, like something like that. Sagan.
A Candle in the Dark.
Demon Haunted World. That's another good one.
Yeah.
Demon Haunted World. Science as a Candle in the Dark. That's the subtitle. Yeah, so that's a great one.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're interested in more of an evolutionary spin at a very approachable level, Dawkins has The Magic of Reality. That's a good one as well. That's nice. And Hawking has his, he did one that's like a very brief summary type version of A Brief History of Time, you know? Brief History of Time is not that approachable to me, at least.
Yeah.
But he has like a even more lay version that's very approachable. And they all break it down and they do a good job of communicating. And then, you know, honestly, if you're looking for stuff like that, YouTube's a great resource. You can find some very nicely edited interviews with people, and they talk about that sort of thing. Their enthusiasm for the way that science can unravel the mysteries of the universe in a very beautiful fashion.
Sometimes, so that's some good information you could get into your head, Joseph, and the folks at home, and other potential callers who may be working up the confidence to call in and say stuff that's better than Joseph. But I really want to read the books that Joseph's reading. I want to hear the bilge that's coming out of Joseph's faith leaders. I really want to hear it, because what Joseph was saying is so off the mark from anything that I've experienced in life.